Hey everybody, this is your Peacekeeper coming at you with the next video in the line of how to play the U.S. Navy battleships. This is the Colorado video, which I'm sure you guys have all been dying to watch. I do want to apologize for the delay. Basically, my computer, the processor on it, went bad from the overclocking that I did on it, and I had to rebuild my gaming computer, and by the time all those parts came around, work picked up, and I also had a week there around Labor Day, which I was gone because I was gone racing, and didn't have the time to really do the videos. This is the first opportunity I've really had to get some good videos for this class, but here we are nonetheless. So, like I said, I wanted to apologize for not getting the video out sooner, but real life kind of kicked in. So let's dive into it. This is the USS Colorado and the Colorado class of battleships. This is by far one of the most storied class of battleships in World War II. It was also one of the more heavily decorated class of battleships. The USS West Virginia, or the WV, was sunk at Pearl Harbor and was raised from the bottom and refitted at towards the end of the war. It actually came out and participated in several battles and earned herself 5 battle stars. So that's quite a success story. And the biggest thing with the West Virginia was the replacement of these casemate guns with 4 of the 5-inch 38 caliber dual-purpose gun mounts that you see on the later U.S. battleships like the North Carolina, South Dakota, and Iowa, as well as several other ships in the U.S. line. Basically, that was the only Colorado-class battleship to receive that retrofit. The Colorado is rumored to have shot more 16-inch shells during the course of World War II than any other U.S. battleship. I'm struggling to find the source for that, but I've heard it mentioned multiple times. It has a lot to do with the Battle of Tarawa, I believe, and supporting U.S. Marine landings there, basically firing for a day straight while the Marines landed on the shore. So that's another cool aspect of it. Between the 3 ships that were completed, you're looking at 19 battle stars between the Colorado, Maryland, and West Virginia. In terms of World of Warships, if you don't know by now, the Colorado class is kind of the red-headed stepchild of the U.S. battleship tree. Basically, Wargaming, for whatever reason, has chosen this probably one of the most decorated class of battleships in U.S. history and turned them into our paywall. They're not the only game company to do that. Navy Field 2 did the same thing with the Colorado class, which is a real big shame. But basically, this class is a bit of a step down from the New Mexico. It requires an entirely different play style. The Colorados have a very good anti-aircraft suite, which is great. It helps you survive, but we ditched a barrel per turret and upped the caliber and the size of the main battery from 14 inches on the New Mexico to 16 inches. So we went from having 12 14-inch guns to 8 16-inch guns. The belt armor, at least from what it feels like in this game, doesn't feel as thick or as durable as what the New Mexico has, and maybe that's just because the ships you're facing off against in the Colorado are a lot more heavily armed and armored. But it just feels like the Colorado is overall a softer ship. You still have the same turning circle as the New Mexico and a slightly slower rudder shift time, but it's nothing that I would really say is atrocious. It's still very good. But by the same token, you don't have the durability that the New Mexico had and the ability to just take hits. So in that regard, the Colorado doesn't play the same as the New Mexico. You really have to play it as kind of an escort ship and support other ships with taking on, whether it's battleships or cruisers, with what they're doing, because you simply just don't have the health and durability to slug it out at point-blank range for a long period of time like the New Mexico could, or for that fact like the New York and Wyoming prior to. So with that in mind, you just need to keep that, well, you just need to keep that in mind and play the Colorado class correctly. Don't expect this class of ships to be the highest damage output ship that you have. It is going to be a bit of a pain to grind through to get to the North Carolina, but once you figure her out, she's not too bad. On that, let's go ahead and talk about the stats on the ship. Your hit points, 50,100, which is less than the New Mexico, which has 53,200, if I remember correctly. Yep, 53,200. So you only have 50,100 hit points. That's one part of the reason why the Colorado is a step back from the New Mexico. The main guns, as we've already discussed, you've got 8 16-inch guns mounted in 4 turrets, 2 fore, 2 aft. You do have a secondary armament that consists of 8 5-inch 51 caliber casemate guns. Those are going to be these guns along the deck, and then 8 total of the 5-inch 25 caliber dual purpose guns, which are these ones up here on the upper deck here, that are the dual purpose mounts that are used for anti-aircraft duties as well. On the anti-aircraft front, like I said, this is one of the strong suits of the class, so let's play to the strong suits of the class a little bit. But you do have 33 of the 20mm anti-aircraft guns. You do have 5 of the dual 40mm Bofors mounts and 6 of the quad 40mm Bofors mounts, in addition to the 8 5-inch 25 caliber dual purpose guns. So pretty healthy anti-aircraft complement. If you play to the ship's strong suits, you can shoot down a lot of aircraft. If you want to try and solo with this ship, expect to be very frustrated. You don't have the, like I said, you don't have the armor capability to really deal with a lot of hits. Your accuracy on the main guns is nothing short of atrocious, and you really won't do a whole lot of damage with the main guns because of that. So with that in mind, you're kind of in that support role, and that's really the way you need to play the Colorado class. And it's, like I said, it's going to be a long grind. Max speed is 21.4 knots. That's been the standard since, well, the Wyoming. And turning circle of 640 meters, rotor shift time of 11.9 seconds. You do have a concealment range of 16.7 kilometers from surface targets and 11.5 from the air. It's a battleship, it's not stealthy. If you play it, or attempt to play it stealthy, I can guarantee you it's not going to work. Upgrades. The upgrades are going to be very similar or the same to the New Mexico class. Main battery modification 1, anti-aircraft gun mod 2, damage control mod 1, and steering gears mod 2. Because this ship is basically a floating AA barge, the plus 20 to AA mount effective range is a required skill, and it really does help take out a lot of aircraft, which is something that the combat video that I'm going to show you doesn't really illustrate very well, because the carrier on the other team didn't seem to care to focus on me, but it did shoot down at least 1 aircraft if I remember correctly. And that's kind of the standard. You know, the U.S. battleship line trades off a little bit of torpedo protection for its anti-aircraft, which actually this ship does seem to be pretty durable with regards to taking torpedo hits. That allows you a little bit more leeway when facing off against destroyers. It gives you a little bit of time to delay your reaction to them being visible or towards their torpedoes, because you can take a hit or two if necessary and keep on fighting, whereas other ships, you take a torpedo or two and you're basically done. Maybe not dead, but you've taken a substantial portion of your health off. Whereas the Colorado just seems to be able to take a couple more of those, more than even the New Mexico class. But that's the Colorado class. Let's go ahead and break into the battle video. Like I said, it's not my best game, but it is pretty indicative of how to play the class of ships and what your role is. I think I ended with like 114k damage, which isn't great, but like I said, it's a ship that you can't expect to do lots of damage with all the time. it takes a specific play style, and it just is really insulting to the real Colorado class, in my opinion. But all right, let's go to the video. All right, so here we go with this battle. If I remember correctly, we got a Ranger and a Hiryu facing off against a whole bunch of Tirpitzes and Colorados. Who would have thunk that the Tirpitz would have been popular, a high-tier payware battleship? Otherwise, it seems like we've got a little bit better cruiser advantage, but they got the destroyer advantage. Nothing too serious, though. Nothing too serious. Now, with the Colorado's playstyle, you're going to see I'm going to dive towards the C marker on this map. It has nothing to do with the fact that the carrier is almost always going to look for battleships near A. It just has to do with the fact that the ship really is better off at closer ranges. Note, it's not a great brawler. It does have the maneuverability to be one, but it lacks that belt armor, and you'll actually see in this video, I think it's a Pensacola that does a pretty substantial amount of damage to me. That's kind of frustrating, but you know, it's the Colorado class of battleships. The main gun range is 16.6, I think, or 16.7 kilometers. It's not huge. It is longer than the New Mexico by about 2 kilometers. It is usable without the scout plane, so you'll notice I took the fighter instead of the scout plane. The added dispersion from the scout plane isn't worth the hit, in my opinion. I'd rather have the better accuracy and a little bit shorter range. And the first ship that we see is a Cleveland. Now the Cleveland class has a very small citadel on it, so AP shells in the Cleveland, while they do damage, it doesn't seem like they do a whole lot of damage. And you can see I'm not exactly in a hurry to try and bring guns to bear on him. He's out there, and I know he's out there, but I can't hit him. One of the things that is pretty nice about the Colorado's main guns, that's about the only thing that's really nice with them, is that they do shoot pretty flat. They are relatively high velocity, low angle rounds, and so you don't have to lead targets nearly as much as you would in, say, the North Carolina or Iowa or Montana class, which has relatively low velocity guns, high angle guns. I noticed that the Hiryu's got some aircraft up. I really want to address that issue before it gets too big, because it takes a while to get the scout plane up, and, well, needless to say, it's kind of necessary to protect yourself from the sky cancer of the world. Here you can see me hitting the Cleveland once and doing 1,200 damage. That was an overpen on the superstructure. And really, if this would have been in any other ship, that Cleveland would have been in a lot more pain than it was in. One other thing that's mildly frustrating about the Colorado class is that the turret traverse speed is really long. I think it's actually worse than the New Mexico's are. And with that in mind, you know, you really end up steering the ship to bring the guns to bear, rather than letting the turrets traverse. There's 4 hits for 12,000 damage, and that's not a bad hit. I mean, if you do manage to hit with these 16-inch guns, they do seem to do a pretty good amount of damage, especially to other battleships. They remind me an awful lot of the Nagato's main guns, which I believe are the same caliber. They don't seem to citadel nearly as much, but they do a lot of damage when they hit. Only difference is the Nagato can actually hit what it's aiming at, whereas the Colorado seems to have more in common with a shotgun than it does with any form of real naval rifle. But that's a choice that Wargaming made, one that I disagree with, one that I find actually quite insulting. Got a Tirpitz off to our left. If you're not familiar with the 15-inch guns on the Tirpitz, they hurt. They are also very flat shooting, high velocity rounds. penetrate a lot of armor with relative ease. So with that in mind, you really want to pay attention to where they're at, especially since the Colorado is going to end up facing off against them fairly regularly. Pensacola. One of my favorite ships to just remove large chunks of health from. Big, huge citadel. 16-inch guns do a lot of damage to it. Look at that shot dispersion. Oofta. 3 hits and only, one of them's a citadel. Can't complain. I took half the Pensacola's health off in 1 hit. But by the same token, I only hit 3 times. If this would have been an Iowa or a Montana, it would have been dead. Of course, the one thing I don't like about this game's targeting system is the propensity to hit mountains, so you'll see that little bit of a jive there as you go up and then bring it back down. Here's where the aircraft start actually getting in range. They're not in range per se. The dual purpose guns are going off, but I don't think any of the other AA complement ever really gets the opportunity to go off. Well, that sounds like a 40 mil mount going off. There's an aircraft for you. And you can see that was relatively low. I mean, it didn't take long to really get that aircraft down. You'll see I'm using this island as cover. Generally speaking, though, you don't want to be too close to islands because of the threat of destroyers, but I've got somebody looking down this strait here for me, and I don't have to worry too much about destroyers popping up there. I do have the destroyer behind me, which is concerning, but not damning by any stretch of the imagination. And of course the Cleveland. He's backing up. Okay. Why not? Should have hit him, right? Hey! Found the rare Cleveland Citadel. So this game doesn't start off being too bad. I've fired 4 or 5 volleys, hit 9 times, and sank a ship. Done 40,000 damage. Not a bad way to start the game off. That's the Turpitz shooting at me. You can see he just took a whole chunk of health off of the ship from a hit to non-critical components. The Colorado continues with the all-or-nothing armor scheme that the New Mexico class had, in which the only areas of the ship that are real heavily armored are the critical components. So areas around the turrets, the citadels, superstructure, places like that. The nose and aft, not as heavily armored. Mostly the nose, not as heavily armored. You can see this is incoming rounds from cruisers, causing a lot of heartache. If I would have been leading that right, that probably would have killed that Pensacola, but it ends up falling behind. Just barely. Another tick and a half or so on the aiming reticle there would have probably gotten me a couple citadels and a dead Pensacola, but that's life. And what's this? This is very interesting. We have a Colorado moving very, very slowly. It's also an upgraded Colorado. You can tell because of the cage masts on the rear. Turbo's firing again. I can't tell if I took out his turret or not, but it certainly incapacitated something and caused a reset at a minimum on one of the turrets. I don't know what their team is using for tactics, but another 4K health off. I think that was from the Colorado. And I can't see him hit, but I get one hit, and it does, I don't know how much damage, some. That is one of the more frustrating aspects with this ship, is it is relatively short range, so you don't have a whole lot of opportunity to shoot at longer ranges at ships and use range as an advantage to help increase dispersion. Nope, we don't get that. That's a good spread. And it is landing just oh so perfect. Okay, 8k hit damage. If it would have been a little bit further back, we would have gotten a citadel, probably killed him with the number of citadels that we got. You can see that because of this other Colorado here that I'm turning myself in to this strait rather than trying to duck out. The reasons for that are quite clear. Angle shells. Angling your armor helps increase health. Makes you a little bit more durable. Bonk! There's another citadel. Of course, I'm not fortunate enough the carrier is turning away, so I don't get the privilege of dealing with that. But here's one thing that I do like about this ship is that the turning circle is, once the thing is full over, the turning circle is relatively tight, so you can actually avoid some of these torpedo strikes that you'd normally be getting from, you know, a number of ships. Here I thought I was out of the woods with this, but nope. Close. Oh, so close. And I run myself aground, avoiding torpedoes, which is totally fine. I'm good with that. I'll take the next to no damage and back myself up. I mean, at the end of the day, I didn't take any of those torpedo hits. Granted, I ran myself aground and made myself a target, but, you know, hey, minor point. I'm also traversing the turrets, the front turrets. I don't know why this Miyoko rams me, but he does end up hitting me. Herp, I'm not paying attention. One piece of advice I do have, though, is when you play the Colorados, if you keep your rate of fire up, basically every time the guns reload, you should probably be finding a target to shoot at it. Something that's providing you with the opportune angle and time to shoot at it. Simply put, you don't have the accuracy to be able to hit most ships with any form of regularity, so you need to be able to do as much damage as you can, and the only way you're going to do that is by getting rounds down range. And of course, the flat shooting trajectory of these shells kind of screws me, and I hit an island. It's okay. Tirpitz is shooting at me, and oh no! Actually, I don't think that was a Tirpitz. I think that was a something else. Boink!
We've destroyed an enemy cruiser.
Now this game actually ties my best game for a number of sinks. That last one, though, was basically a kill steal. It didn't really do a lot of damage to him, but... And a Pensacola Citadel. Left him with 63 hit points. Man, you could sneeze at him and he would die. And another Pensacola. This Pensacola player was actually really good, which was really annoying, but we're going to shoot at this Tirpitz instead because he's actually in range. I'm praying those shells make it over, and they do, and I'm sitting here thinking, yes, that's going to kill him, or it's going to get close, and a miss. And then shot dispersion.
Problem solved, sir.
And a miss again. And that's going to be a recurring theme with playing the Colorado. It's just the way the ship is. I mean, even at 14 kilometers where this Tirpitz was at, I wasn't able to hit him, which is really rather frustrating. Unfortunately, is also very much so a part of the ship and how it plays. Woo! 2 hits, 4k damage. We're doing some damage, I can't really complain. And then, of course, our carrier, I think, finishes him off. Yeah. There's one other Tirpitz over there. He's kind of going the opposite direction of me, so... meh. we're going to go over here and we're going to deal with this Pensacola. At this point in time, I'm the only ship that this Pensacola can see, aside from the Aoba that's in the channel where that Tirpitz was just sunk at. Or correction, Miyoko, not Aoba. I don't think he can see the Aoba where it's at. Of course, he manages to slow down and I miss. So I shoot it the other way. He speeds up. And I hit twice, do about 4.5k damage. And the Pensacola, you know, it's got those 8-inch guns. It's very capable, in spite of its disadvantage with its massive citadel. Unfortunately, I'm not able to get the ship turned in time to bring those rear guns into play, so I kind of have to sit here and take these rounds. And you can see how much damage they do. That was about 4k damage. I'm going to put the fire out right away because I don't have enough hit points. Oh. Shot out. And of course the Pensacola slows down and a miss. Would have been another good hit had it actually hit. Ouch. That was a good 6k health gone in an instant. And here comes more. And this is one of the most frustrating aspects of the ship, is even though you've got some maneuverability, you're on fire. He can do an insane amount of damage by hitting your superstructure, non-critical components with HE. Imagine what would happen if you were shooting AP at close ranges. With that rate of fire and that hit point pool. Well, not a whole lot I can really do about it except for sit here and just kind of take it. I do take a shot out at him. If I remember correctly, it only does minor damage. Yeah, 5k. That's not really all that minor, but... I guess there are other ships that capture his attention in Aoba.
Our victory is in
That
sight.
Aoba that I didn't think he could see before. Gives me plenty of opportunity to take some pot shots at him. I mean, I don't know what exactly he was going through his mind during this. You've got a Colorado that basically has no hit points and you're ignoring him. So, okay. I'll just keep shooting at you then. 2 hits for 2k. Both those are over pens. Well, that Aoba is running away and he sank it. So now it's back to me. Of course, my main guns aren't up, so you know he's got faster turning turrets and faster reloading turrets, and I don't. So I wasn't sure I was going to survive that, but I do end up surviving it.
Enemy cruiser sunk.
With 2,121 hit points. And by now, this match is basically over. They have a Hiryu that is somehow still alive, and a Tirpitz. Tirpitz is all the way down south in the I-9, I-10 line area. And the Hiryu is in the G10 line. Neither of which are particularly interested in me because they are currently being shot at by their own ships. By their own ships, I mean by my ships closer to him. The CV dealing with that Mitsuki, the Tirpitz dealing with the Tirpitz and an Otago, and the Ranger is just tossing in wherever he can. I'm going to try and get into this battle, but it's going to basically be over. So with that in mind, you can kind of see basically how to play this ship. It has a very limited support role. It's not the best ship in the U.S. battleship tree by any stretch of the imagination, but it is capable when played right. You basically need to stick with a group. I suggest divisioning up. In fact, I ground through the Colorado twice, once in closed beta and once in the open beta. And once the open beta came around, you know, I divisioned up with people because I didn't want to deal with it. So 3,666 base XP. Look at that. Colorado at number 1. Woo! 111,000 damage. Alright. So that's the USS Colorado. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching.